Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Southern Reads podcast, the show where I talk about books and only everything book related. And today I am joined by Mr. Drew Mcholm. Drew is an author, musician, and the pastor of the famous Little Brown Church in Nashua, Iowa. He has recently published his first book, Minister of Justice. And today he's here. He's going to share a little bit more about his book. He's also going to share a little bit more about the writing process and just kind of his experience as an author so far. So, Drew, thank you so much for taking time to come on the podcast today. And I'm looking forward to hearing your story. Welcome to Southern Reads.
Thanks, Noah. Appreciate it.
So, tell me a little bit more about your background and kind of share how you got interested and inspired to become an author.
Well, I was born in Scotland originally and moved to the States to study about 35 years ago and stayed. And I got a job in a church in Austin, and then I did some business work. I was a CEO, owned a couple of small companies, and then got back in the ministry up here. So I've had a kind of varied life of doing different things. And it's a funny story because I hadn't read that many novels in the past, and I was on a flight somewhere, went into one of the bookstores in the airport and picked up a Vince Flynn novel and began to read it and loved it, read a couple more. And then I thought, you know what, I could probably write something like this. And so it became a quest. And somebody asked me the other day in a podcast, they said, you know, what qualified you to write? My response was, I've been writing all my life. I mean, sermons that I preach every Sunday, they're all short stories, if you will. And I've done a lot of technical writing, a lot of academic writing, but not a novel. So I thought, you know, why not? Let's try it. And it was a long process, but now we completed it. We got it done.
So coming out with this, with the book Minister of Justice, share with me a little bit about how you wanted to craft the book, and was there a particular genre that you wanted to focus on, or did you just write until a genre kind of was born?
No, I kind of wrote out of somewhat personal. It's not an autobiography, but I wrote out of personal experience being in Scotland during because the book originally is about the conflict with the IRA in Northern Ireland and Britain, and so I lived through that whole time. So I had some hands-on knowledge of that, and then all the places that I mentioned in the book that the main character goes to, I've either lived there or been there. So I did that on purpose because I thought, you know, if you can write about something you know a lot easier than just making stuff up. And so, as I said, the places and some of the events, some of the people reminded me of some of the characters that I've written in the book. So that's where it began. I wanted to write something that was espionage, counterterrorism novel that was the almost antithesis of James Bond. I wanted the character, the main guy, to be just a regular guy, you know, nothing fancy, just a blue collar guy that gets swept up in this situation through a love interest, and all of a sudden his life takes a turn that he never expected. So a lot of twists and turns in the book.
So you did choose to write the kind of an espion terrorist novel where the main character experiences a spiritual change. Uh, Was it difficult writing on this kind of topic, knowing your background, or was this a topic that you kind of were somewhat knowledgeable of and kind of had some experience in?
Yeah, somewhat. Um, I think I wanted to do a twist. I could have written it just as a regular espionage novel, but I wanted a kind of moral, spiritual twist in the book, where the guy goes through he through a set of circumstances ends up in the U.S. and he is burdened because of things that happened in the past, things he got involved in, and he's the kind of guy that you know, he wakes up every night and he's haunted by the demons of the past and all the people that he's killed or whatever. And so he's looking for, well, he actually isn't. He just comes in a situation where he finds a place where he could find forgiveness, redemption, whatever you want to call it. Begins a change in his life, but then adds to the problem of some of the moral issues he has to deal with, ethical issues. So even though he gets through this spiritual experience, he still has to deal with issues of the past that keep creeping in and how he deals with that. So yeah, so that wasn't difficult to write that. at all. So
Who were some of your inspirations going into this book, and who were some authors that you kind of looked up to get some inspiration from?
well, as I said, I started to read Vince Flynn, read some James Patterson, the typical authors that most people would read, John Grisham, and so they were inspiring, but in a sense, but really this was something that I wanted to just lean on my own background, my own experience, and just write from my own heart rather than try and piggyback on somebody else.
I know your background is you worked as a pastor and you kind of have a background in religion and pastor work. Were you nervous about releasing this book, knowing kind of your career choice and kind of who you were stapled as at this point?
It was a consideration, and so when I was putting the book together, I went to some of the people in the leadership of our church here and some other friends of mine, and told them what it's going to be about. Let them read some of it to make sure they were comfortable, because it wasn't never written as a Christian book, even though it was a theme of redemption in the middle of it, as a spy novel. And so, there's a lot about swearing in the book and stuff. And so I wanted to make sure they were comfortable with it. Nothing bad, but I wanted it to be like relatable. I didn't want to sanitize the book, and so the first part of the book is very normal, everyday language that people would use. But yeah, that was a consideration. But as I say, I get some good advice, good counsel from others to carry on, and that's what we did.
So with the book released and has now been out for a while, share with me some of the reception that you've received so far from people that have picked up the book, and what's it been like seeing people's reactions to it so far?
It's been great. We've done a number of book signings here in Iowa, where we are, and everyone. One of them was a real success, sold a whole bunch of books. My wife and I are musicians, so we invented this thing called Sing and Sign. So we do these book signings where we'll sing some stuff and then sign some books and sing some more, and that's been novel. People really enjoy that, and so the most I guess the best comments that I've received so far have been like, "So when's the next one coming out? Can't lay it down. It's got me, fixated." So when I hear that, then that's a really good commendation that they're looking forward to the follow up.
Doing these events and book signing events, was share with me a little bit about how some of these book signings go because I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't really know about when it comes to book signing. So share with me kind of like the typical process that you have to go through to be able to get a book signing.
So what we did, we haven't touched on any bookstores yet, so we've avoided that at the moment. So we set up book signings in restaurants that we know, one in a retirement community where I'm on the board of directors, and a number of places where we knew that some of our friends and family members and others that know us would gather around. So that was easy to put together. And then in Texas, when we go down there in August, we got about 3 or 4 signings set up, and one's in a big, it's a kind of concert venue bar, where a lot of musicians play. And I've got a lot of musician friends in Austin, so they put this together, and we're going to do like a concert and then do some signings. So there's lots of different ways to do it, but we're rookies at it, and so we did a lot of publicity, a lot of posters. We got one of these big roll-up banners that you have to draw attention to it, and tried our best to make sure that everything went smooth as silk. And to be honest with you, everything's gone really well so far. It's been well received.
Would you like to possibly do more book tours or be able to speak at bigger events to kind of get this story promoted out there? Or are you going to stay kind of more in the small venues and kind of small little stores around your town?
No, we'd love to go big. I mean, we have no problem with that. And I think one of the advantages I've got is because I speak publicly all the time. then I don't have the nervousness that some people who don't do that have when, people maybe ask them to do a book reading and things like that. That can be a nerve-wracking thing for some people. I've been preaching and talking and teaching for 40 years, so it comes second nature to me. So, and I think that's a really important thing, that you got to be very comfortable with yourself when you're doing that. I'm not a big promoter of myself. I really have a problem with that, but my wife is a marketing guru, and some of her friends are like that, and so they're the ones that are promoting the thing more than me. So
Have you had your book released from your home country of Scotland? And if so, what's been the response so far over there been like?
yeah, that's a great question. The answer is no. We're actually looking for podcasters in the UK that'd be willing to do this thing here. We haven't found any yet, so if you get any knowledge of that, it'd be great. And I think the book would take off really well there because it's based there to start with. And a lot of people that I know back there I think, will buy the book and read it and will identify with the places, that I mentioned in the book. I've tried to be really as historically accurate in the book because it spans from 1977 to 2001, basically, the first book. And so I wanted to make sure that the places I mentioned were actually there back in Glasgow or whatever in 1977. So I think it would be accepted real well by the folks over there. But as I say, we can do certain amount through our Facebook page, certain amount through our website, but we really need to, get on the Amazon thing, which we are, but find out how to really promote it there, and work on finding some podcasters in the UK that would be willing to interview me.
With the publishing process, have you worked with a traditional publisher, or has this been fully self-published, or how did you go about the publishing process?
Great question. Well, I've got a friend, his name's James Parker. He's written a few novels. I think one of his novels has been written into a screenplay right now. And so I went to him and said, how did you do it? So he put me in contact with a guy who was his publicist that we hired. And then we found a publisher that he works with that actually did the physical, putting it together, printing the book and all that. And so that's been a really interesting process. When you don't know what you don't know, it's amazing what you discover on the journey of trying to publish and publicize a book. And so these guys have been very, very helpful. They've got a lot more experience, obviously, than I have. So it's been interesting, and hopefully it'll develop from here. As we start to make more connections.
So going forward, where would you like to see this book be 10 years from now? And what are some kind of future goals that you are looking forward and hoping to achieve?
I want to do a lot more writing. This is going to be at least a sequel, if not a trilogy. So I'm about halfway through the sequel, hoping to have it out by the beginning of summer next year. And so then I want to write some other kind of books, different things, maybe some more church-related books I can write. So, but I'm fixated in getting these 2 or 3 books out the door. I'd really love to see them being very, very popular. The people who've read it, they've told me this would make a great movie or a great TV series or whatever else. So who knows? I mean, who knows where it goes from there? So.
Do you see being an author be kind of more of your full-time career, or are you still wanting to do kind of pastor work and being a pastor full-time, or how are you going to balance the two?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. At the moment, certainly the pastoral ministry here is priority number one. And so I've done all this writing in my spare time at weekends. I'm 71, and so, getting towards that time that I probably will retire. I don't think I'll ever retire from writing because I think I can continue long after that. So it may be at some point down the future that this becomes my full-time thing, and that would be fine. I would enjoy that. If it was able to pay the bills, that's is the main thing there. So if it's successful.
Are there any other genres that you would particularly like to maybe dabble in to see how well you do in those genres, or do you think that you would stay more on the kind of the mystery spy novel kind of route?
Well, I've got a couple of ideas for books in the Christian circle. One of them's called What They Never Taught You in Bible College. I used to teach in college, and I've always been amazed that when guys, especially young guys or gals, get out of college thinking they know everything because they had a 4 year degree, and then they go to a church, and then they discover that working with real people is a whole different thing than being in Bible college. And so there's a lot of things I could say there of my experience that may help some guys. I've got a thing going called Aim for the Highest, which is a kind of a ministry project where I'll take all the material that I've produced over 35, 40 years and basically dump it on the website so that other guys can benefit from. There's a lot of people out there that are bivocational. They don't have enough time to study on their own or prep sermons. And so I want to make that available. So that's another project that may end up like a book. But I can't think of anything outside of the mystery espionage thing that I would probably, other than Christian stuff, that I would probably write into at this point in time.
To anyone listening, what is your biggest hope and biggest dream that you're hoping comes out of this whole experience? And what would you like listeners to walk away with when they read the book and they read the upcoming series and see other books that follow? What's the big takeaway that you want people to walk away with?
Well, first of all, I hope they enjoy it. I mean, they enjoy the read and they want more. And so the book has certainly got a cliffhanger at the end. So people are already working out that there is going to be a follow up. And so I've had a number of questions about when it's coming out. I've had questions about is this character coming back in book two, and the typical questions. And so really that I hope. And secondly, from a spiritual point of view, that some people might read it and discover that there is a possibility of redemption, forgiveness for, if God can forgive this guy for all the stuff he's done, there's hope for me. So there's that right at the middle of the book kind of thing where that is. So maybe somebody will glean some understanding from that and realize there's hope for themselves.
Well, Drew, I appreciate you so much for taking time to come on the podcast today to share your story and to share this book and share such a good, impactful story about how the book has come to be and kind of how the book was crafted. For people interested in the book, if they would like to check it out for themselves and would like to purchase it and would like to keep up to date with books that you have coming out in the future, where can they go to learn more information and where can they go to follow you as well?
If they can go to our website, www.drewmcholm, just my name.com, then there's a whole information there. Also, that's the place you can buy the book. And there's two options. One is an unsigned copy. And then there's, for a few dollars more, I'll actually sign the copy and mail the books to you. But that's only for people in the continental US. For anybody other than that is going to be Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever, online purchases. But for those in the continental US, we can certainly, sign the book and mail it to everybody. Also, on my Drew Mcholm author Facebook page, there's videos and other information going to be there. And will eventually be on Instagram and different platforms too. So it's a work in progress. I've got some really helpful. I'm not a techie by any stretch of the imagination, so I've got some really good people helping me out to figure all the tech details and make sure the website's kept up to date. So that's where to go: www.drewmcholm.com.
And I will put his website in the description box, and I'll put links to his socials that are available right now. I'll put those down there as well. But just mainly go to the website to find all that information and kind of learn more about where he's available at and everything. Feel free to follow the podcast on the socials. You can reach out to me on Instagram and TikTok at southern.reads. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcasts. And feel free to just check out the website, noahspodcasts.com, to learn more about this show, as well as the other shows that I do. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I will catch you in the next episode of Southern Reads.